I was doing some of the work which Dermot was talking about. Can I just kick off a thought?
Of course.
Dermot, you talked about clients being companies.
Yes.
Since I retired from your organisation 10 years ago, all of my clients have been governments.
Okay, yes.
They've either been individual governments or they've been international organisations.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things you might stress in this is you could help people in this room get business from international organisations. The United Nations has been my major customer, so is the EU, and on one occasion the World Bank. These people have got guaranteed funds, and they have guaranteed timescales in which to pay you. And if you can get onto the roster, which is the expression used a few moments ago, of any of these organisations, they are a good source
it's a
of
very
business.
good policy.
And it's something which, when I was sitting in your seat, I found extremely difficult to help companies do. I'd be interested to know whether now UKTI has improved its services for getting individuals like us to get business from large international...
It's very good. Well, the best one you mentioned, which is the one you yourself, Alan, are involved with, is the United Nations. We have a lady in the Southeast who specialises in the United Nations and all the sort of aid-related projects. So really she's the one who's sort of pretty well become our specialist. And she's helped lots of quite small companies, because it's extremely cumbersome, you know, getting onto the approved supplier list and all the hoops you have to go through. And she's been able to do that in coordination with our commercial team in New York and Geneva and Copenhagen and various other places. So you've certainly hit it very well. In terms of the EU projects, we probably haven't yet tackled that very well. It's another complete ball game, you know, even more different than, say, United Nations. So that, but we do, again, I know specialists who can help companies to go through those hoops. They're not international trade advisors, but we do know companies that do specialise in that, in things like tenders and stuff like that. The other area, obviously, things like NATO, and again, that can sometimes be difficult, but we've got a defence security guy who can help people get into that. But I agree with you, there's a lot of mileage with these big government bodies.
A lot of money.
A lot of money,
and
absolutely.
They want to spend it too.
Exactly.
What about your ICG?
No, I haven't actually come across it, Mark. You know, specifically. I mean, maybe one or two of my colleagues have, but I mean, it's a similar principle. Yep, definitely. Particularly, as you say, any product-related companies, particularly disaster relief and all that type of thing. You know, once you get onto their approved list, you can suddenly hit bonanza.
Plus, the examples you gave, we're all, by virtue of being in ICG, we're all kind of 1, 2, or maximum 3-person company. And examples, I'm always kind of aware when government talk about initiatives and the kind of definition of small, medium. I always imagine what they're talking about is
much bigger.
The kind of companies that you had in your case studies who maybe 21 employees or 100 employees. And do you tend to work very much with...
We work with everybody, really. We try and, which is very hard, and you probably try the same, you know, the higher growth companies, rather than the sort of what I call lifestylists who play golf 4 days a week and have got a nice little business ticking over and no real incentive to grow. So, you know, be quite brutal. You know, we all have limited sort of resources in terms of our time and availability. But no, certainly, I mean, most of the companies I deal with, a lot of the companies I deal with companies, you know, £1 billion turnover, but they're very rare. But the majority probably have got 5, 10 employees. And if you analyse the profile of SMEs within this country, that's about the level, you know. So no, we'll help anyone. You know, it doesn't have to be. We wouldn't be sniffy and say no, you've only got one person or. So, I mean, I think startup companies we have to be a little bit careful where they've got no track record. But again, you know, who's going to help them if we can't help them? You know.
I'm just going to ask a similar question. What's your view coming and addressing us tonight? We're obviously all promoting market intelligence, research expertise. You don't see that. I mean, you probably, I'm thinking of your visit to the Middle East a couple of weeks ago. You're probably more comfortable with I don't know, an arms manufacturer or a motor.
They weren't in the arms manufacturer. No.
One thing to the typical, you know, UK in the Middle East business promotion. But you don't see this sort of industry as less of an opportunity, less of a...
No, not at all. And as Caroline very, very adroitly said, you know, we have a big reputation in terms of research quality and the language, the English language. I mean, one of the things, I mean, I was actually involved with educational software for about 8 years, and UK has got an amazing track record internationally for the English language heritage that we have in terms of skills, education, and you're not just learning a skill, but of course you're improving your English. So it's a double win for, say, a Saudi guy or a Russian guy. So definitely, you know, things like that, you know, we can export and equally research British expertise, you know, in terms of research.
So Caroline, can I ask, I'm not someone who deals internationally, I'm financial based and a lot of the markets in financial are quite country specific because of the regulatory environment, etc. But I'm about to be. I'm dealing with an American company who want to go and talk to the French and the German and the Spanish wealth management sector, basically. Now, my view is that they should talk to people in France, Germany and Spain, like me, who could probably help them. And there's probably several of those within the ICG. But I mean, I took from your points were get out there and do it. If you want to do it yourself, you can do it yourself. But I have no real feel for these markets. So the question is, what would you recommend? Do you think I should talk to someone like you who does a lot of international research?
Definitely. Sign here.
Or should I try and, you know, get out there and do it myself? I don't have the language skills, it has to be said, but...
Yeah, but you could find someone, and through the group you would find very good people in the market, and the service you could sell to the Americans, because the Americans probably don't know any of these markets, is that you can bring it all together as one.
Well, they think it's all one Europe, So,
one market.
No, or they don't. They think it's very, very complicated. And if they find somebody who says, well, I can facilitate that for you, then they appreciate that. And I think that is, you know, the way in is to bring in the sort of ancillary expertise that you need then to be able to do it.
But you'd be taking the pain away.
Absolutely.
US client. You're then coordinating, they're briefing you, they have full confidence in you.
Exactly.
And you're then making sure, to whatever level of finger on the pulse you are comfortable with, that it's happening in the country with your country partners. I'm with you, I'd be really hesitant going to Germany, trying to research the German market myself. I'd be rubbish at it. But have a really good in-country partner.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can do a fabulous job.
Yeah, and you go to Germany as well with simultaneous translation, so that you actually brief the German moderator and you actually hear what's going on, and you charge the added value service for doing all of that.
It's actually quant-based, but I take your point.
There's probably several of us different with all the big agencies.
Yeah, and that was one of the most important points I felt on Caroline's slides was that, you know, like most of us in this room, I used to work for a big agency, and at one time we could choose who we worked with locally, but then the edict came down, you will always work with the local office in each country, and some of them were very good and some of them weren't. And in the ICG we've got that enormous strength that we can ask for a recommendation in any sector in any country, and somebody will pop up with a good one. So, you know, we're not just claiming we work with the best people in each market, we genuinely can.
I think I think it's incumbent on the client to give a good briefing, and as long as so that everybody knows where they stand, and then for you to sort of disseminate that to. But you know, as long as the client agrees that, you know, what you're delivering is against the brief that they've given.
But I think it's also going back to the point of UK being a fantastic hub for not just US companies. It might be Korean companies, it might be Japanese companies that are using us as a base. And here you are on this sort of aircraft carrier, whatever you like to call it, sort of offshore. You know, if you can try and pick off some of these companies that clearly are using UK as a base and be able to offer them that European solution, you know, you really could end up with some decent business.
This is not going to sound, I hope, like either self-promotion or promotion of online qual, but I'm going to tell you a very short story, which was Ed Gerry, another ICG member, and I done 3 projects for Visit Britain, which we pitched against large agencies like Ipsos, etc., which covered China, South Korea, India, Australia, France, Germany, and America. And when we got the briefs, we had absolutely no idea who we were going to work with in those markets. And through the ICG network, we built up contacts in each of those local markets.
That's brilliant.
Because we were doing it online, what we did was we wrote a fairly detailed moderator's guide. We gave it to the qual researcher in the local market, some of whom had never done an online group before. We used Skype screen share to train them how to run the system, and we did some pilots with them. They translated this discussion guide, ran the groups, in most cases did the recruitment, and then we gave them a template of how we wanted the reports with summary verbatim, so they didn't have to translate the full verbatim output. And it worked very effectively, and we won 3 consecutive tenders, and we were probably about 30% cheaper than a multinational with local offices.
And got the overheads.
And the ICG network was absolutely fantastic in finding those local partners. I mean, literally within 24 hours, I got a phone call from someone yesterday saying, I want to Brazil, Russia, Poland, whatever. I said, no problem. The network will find someone. So that was just to try and encourage everybody now that online is slightly less of a dirty word than it was a little while ago. And a question for you is, we've been absolutely rubbish at trying to find more clients like Visit Britain. You know, they put the tender out, or in fact they came to us. And trying to identify large companies, multinationals based out of the UK who want to do international research. I mean, I'm guessing you kind of just have to look at the largest multinationals and find their UK office and try and get through their no-name policy and their this and their that. They won't give you the names. Is there anything that you can do to...
I mean, it was a lot easier. There was, at one time, the development agencies, and they were responsible for inward investment. And UK, we're not very good on the export side, but in terms of the league tables of inward investment, we are at the top of the league in terms of Europe, in terms of vis-a-vis France or Germany or other countries. So, you know, we had quite a close collaboration. We knew when companies were coming in to the Southeast region and they were setting up, so you could sort of knock on their door quite quickly and offer them a whole range of services, from law through to, you know, the right property people on the right soft landing type stuff. Unfortunately now, it's actually I'm not saying unfortunately, but it's actually been won, the contract now from the development agencies by PA Consulting. Now they are responsible now for handling, over the last 12, 18 months, inward investment. So it's out of our hands. So they are the ones, unfortunately, you know, I don't, you know, track in the same way as I used to these sort of companies that might be coming in just ripe for your type of services. But otherwise, I think it's a question of just sort of monitoring. You might even worth possibly looking at some of the chambers of commerce or Anglo-Korean sort of business groups, or that type of thing, where you might get a sort of the obvious place that if you were, say, a Korean or American or a Japanese wanting to set up here, the sort of local quote-unquote business networking clubs or forums, you plug into those, might be a way of tapping into, the sort of people that require your hub offering.
Because, I mean, anybody in the room here could replicate what I did for Visit Britain.
Yes. Yeah.
And therefore, if we could identify, UK-based companies that wanted to do multinational research based in the UK, but did not want to hire a large international multinational agency, is there any sort of networking or any events that you do whereby we might have the opportunity to say there is another way to do it?
I'm just trying to think outside the box, because so much of what I do is all geared towards the opposite way, getting companies to sort of export and international trade and stuff. So I'm just thinking of any sort of events. you know.
No, it is linked because your clients
Yeah.
are wanting to export.
Yes.
They're needing market intelligence.
Yeah.
And who do they buy that from?
They would normally buy that from the embassies in 95 countries.
That's OMIS.
Yes.
But EMRS, Export Market Research Scheme.
Yep.
No.
Exactly. That could be done internally or by one of you guys.
We've done a lot of export market research schemes. Clive Hogan.
Oh yes. Isn't that brilliant? Oh, I know him. He's now been absorbed into the UKTI sort of family.
And tip of the day for me, out to current audience, of if you like trying to find market work of that kind, which is clients who are wanting international research of other markets.
Exactly.
It might be one, it might be several.
Actually, it's really good hearing that, Martin. I had no idea that you were involved. You know, you knew about that. Yeah.
Whenever you come across a client who's thinking that they want market landscape, market sizing, market potential, mention the export market research scheme and say you could get up to 50% funded by the government.
Absolutely.
However, the downside is they have to get 3 quotes. But if you say that up front, you say, look, it's absolutely clear.
Actually, Clive can help a lot, can't he? Writing the brief and everything else.
You have to get 3 quotes. Yeah. We would be delighted to be invited as one of them. Yeah. And actually, we're confident that when you get the 3, they don't have to choose the cheapest. Yeah. They can choose out of the 3 which they wish to run with. Yeah. Okay. So long as they argue to UKTI
absolutely.
Why they want to choose this supplier, not those.
And you could suggest 2 friends.
2 bloody expensive, not very good friends.
Exactly. Well, Martin, I'm delighted. Alan's another one who knows UKTI very well. And Martin, it's very interesting that you've come across. I had no idea that you'd experienced this. Clive is still around, and he's very helpful. In this sort of case, you probably gathered I sort of hand over that type of referral to him, because there are a lot of these hoops and different bits of forms that you have to fill in, but he does all that for you. Yeah. But that's very good.
I have a question for Caroline. How do you get over the challenge of going into one of these huge multinational global companies as little you, without that Synovate or TNS or Mori behind you?
I think you have to have some link, which is via a person or a previous company or something. You can't. You're not, this day and age. You're not going to get through to the right person. Just by thinking that actually we can do a really good job, especially in qual, because you can. And if you've got the right partners and everything else, then actually you just have to stand up and say, yes, we can do you just as good a job. If not better, actually.
Or you can quote previous clients. Yeah. For example, when I first got a job with the UN, I said I'd done a job for the World Bank. Oh, you've done a job for the World Bank? Yeah. So previous clientele can actually help you. Because one of the problems I think we've got as individuals is we don't have a trade denomination like RICS, RIBA, which gives us international credibility. We don't have anything like that. And I've found that only by quoting internationally prominent clients have I been able to establish my own credibility.
By association.
Sorry, does MRS not count?
I'm not sure it does. I'm not sure it would be internationally recognised. Well, it may be.
No, I don't think one should be too sniffy.
No. But I mean,
it has fairly weighty.
Maybe it does, but I mean, if you walk into an organisation in Germany or France, would the initials MRS mean something in UK context? No. Whereas I think if you say I'm a chartered accountant, I am a chartered architect or a surveyor, I think that may mean something on an international scale. And I think as individuals in market research or in consultancy as I am, you've got to establish your credibility in something other than an internationally recognised. And that's the challenge I always found when I was sitting in your seat. How do you help individuals who don't have an internationally recognised qualification?
And the only way to do it is by association with big clients that are internationally recognised.
Yes.
And you may have only done one small bit of business with them, but you can still hand on
writing your CV. You put your World Bank one first, and your United Nations second, and European Union third, because that's what's going to be recognised by the clients.
Caroline, can I help you sleep?
Currencies. Yes, please do. Yes, because I'm
charging in currencies. You don't need to worry about it.
No.
Simply take the day that you quote, take the whatever the currency rate is from, say, ft.com. You put that into your quote. You say you've quoted on this basis. Build in 5% additional margin, and then in your terms, it's all to do with terms. Say any variance from this rate greater than 5% will need to be charged.
Yeah, but they don't.
In which case, don't take the job.
Well, the other answer is.
But that's the difficult one, though, isn't it? Surely, if you've got a 5-country study from this one in question is Philips, they will pay in euros, and these are the terms. So do you say, actually, I'm not going to do it because then you build in the margin you hope is going to see you right, and you cross your fingers. And recently, well, end of last year, it moved a lot.
I see your problem, but the downside is you could go bust.
Yes, but that is the issue. You just have to say, right, well, I'm going to do it, or I'm going to say no, thank you. And if you've got a 5-country study from a Philips, do you say no, thank you? Well, no.
No, but you build in the 5%.
Recently you need more than 5%. Recently it's 9 to 10%.
Sorry, yes, but anything additional.
You can share the risk together.
But then your challenge is they are buying you because you're cheaper than Ipsos, and then you have to take a call on the day you send the proposal out. I will go this far, and if I go further I might lose it. And it's just.
It works both ways.
Yes.
The other thing I've done is
so you
use a currency dealer as well.
Yes.
Bought rather than using the bank, which costs an absolute fortune. And you could cost you another 5% or whatever it costs you. Currency dealers are so much cheaper, and you can hedge. You can buy the currency so that you're covered.
You can buy the currency forward.
But when you're paying your suppliers, you're usually much closer to them. So when you're paying out, that's not your worry, really. It's when it comes in 3 months later. Then you can't buy that ahead. Really.
No.